Very pleased to be joined now by One Championship CEO Chatri Sityodtong. Chatri, you're a busy man. Great to catch up with you. There's always things happening with One Championship. It's been a roller coaster ride with the next gen one atomweight World Grand Prix. We have Mezababa versus Stamp as our main event. Ritu Bogat will be taking on Jelena Olsen. How's it been for you dealing with the ups and downs of this tournament, and how pleased are you that Jelena was able to step in?
It's just part and parcel for any kind of World Grand Prix. The good news is that, the atomweight division is genuinely the most stacked female division in all of mixed martial arts globally. And so, even the alternates are phenomenal and can easily rank pound for pound in any organization. So to that extent, super excited for the semifinals, and there are going to be some really exciting matches coming up.
It was interesting. I mean, like you said, anything can happen in a Grand Prix. When Christian Lee stepped in at lightweight, we dealt with similar things, and in a way, it was memorable. So is there any chance that we see Angela, if anything were to happen again, seeing her maybe step in as her brother did?
I don't think so, because Angela's not in fight shape right now.
I mean, down the road for the final.
Yeah, no, she's from my understanding right now, having talked to Ken recently, Angela won't be ready until about February of next year. And she'll be ready to defend her title. And by then, obviously, we'll have crowned atomweight Grand Prix champion.
Well, speaking of Christian, there was an interesting situation with him and him losing his title. Were you pleased with how that was handled in the end?
The judges, have a job to do, and I have a tremendous amount of respect. We do our best to work with the very best judges, officials, referees in the world. And, I disagree with the judge's decision. I thought genuinely that Christian won. I still believe Christian won, but I accept the judge's decision. I mean, as should everyone else in the world. And, Oh Gray-Yoon is the lightweight champion of the world. It happens. It's combat sport. Sometimes you're going to have very close fights. And in this case, it was, any expert will tell you that it was close. The question is, who did you give internal damage versus external damage to, and that's what it boiled down to.
How good is Christian, do you think, on a world level? Because for a while there, he was looking very much living up to his nickname, Unstoppable, and the Warrior, And where do you rank him in terms of the world's very best?
I think he's up there, definitely. I do believe on any given day, and again, obviously training in the gym is very different, but I have seen him go up against the very, very best names from other organizations, in training and even on the professional circuit. People will tell you that, Christian runs through the top featherweights and lightweights of other respective organizations. And so I have no doubt in my mind about his ability. I do believe he is, the best lightweight out there. I still believe it.
His old friend and rival, Shinya Aoki, had a few words for Sexiyama recently. That was an interesting one. How did you feel about that? And what's it been like dealing with such a unique character like Shinya over the years?
Well, I think there's always been bad blood between Shinya and Akiyama. And, I think it's the drum beat's just getting louder. And Shinya's always been a very controversial figure. Now, that's his public image. In real life, Shinya is actually a true martial artist, a very humble warrior. But, when it comes to fandom and when it comes to promoting fights, he takes on a different persona. And, that's not to say that's not who he really is. He really has that nasty streak about him in real life, both in and out of the arena. And he has some bad blood with Akiyama. And, I'd love to see that fight. I know the Japanese public wants to see that fight.
Speaking of fights that you'd want to see, who do you think is the biggest test for Angela in the Grand Prix?
I think a really tough fight for Angela would be someone like a Stamp. Styles make fights. And it's no secret that Angela has world-class jiu-jitsu. Her submissions are incredible. But it's also no secret that her striking needs a lot of work still. She's improved her striking, in leaps and bounds, but it's nowhere near world-class, in my humble opinion. And so styles make fights. Stamp has the style to give Angela a long night. Stamp is extremely explosive, tremendous balance, excellent takedown defense, and actually great submission defense as well, and just very, very strong for her weight class. And obviously she has world-class Muay Thai. So if I had to say who, would give Angela the toughest fight in the atomweight division, but again, it's just my opinion. There are 10 other women in the division that, go neck and neck with Stamp and Angela. I mean, it's such a stacked division. But I just say, from my experience as a martial artist, it's just styles make fights, and Stamp has the style to give Angela a difficult night.
Yeah, I mean, like you say, there's so many women out there who could challenge her. Sohee Ham being one, Denice Zamboanga another. Of course, it's disappointing that they dropped out, but the rumors are that the rematch will be made outside of the tournament. Is that what you'd like to see?
Yeah, definitely. First of all, I'd love to see Denice versus Ham, a rematch. I personally thought again that, I disagree with the judges. I thought Denice won the fight. But again, I understand the judge's perspective as well, because one of those very close fights is, but yeah, I mean, I think the world wants to see the rematch. I actually don't think stylistically that Ham is going to be a difficult night for Angela. I think Angela is going to be too good for Ham. Denice, I think, could give Angela trouble in the early rounds, but in the later rounds, I think Angela will come out on top. And obviously, Denice is a phenomenal athlete. But again, like I said, styles make fights. And I think the toughest challenger for Angela is, in my opinion, is Stamp.
You say styles make fights, and it's absolutely true. How big a believer are you that stories make fights? And in that regard, which story would be the best for Angela? Denice, there's been some tension there. Sohee
Right.
Ham is the veteran. Yeah. Angela's like the new gen.
Well, I think styles makes fights in terms of who's going to win, who's going to lose. Stories don't necessarily determine who's going to win, who's going to lose. Stories are really about, the fan interest and the bad blood and stuff like that. And I do know that Denice and Angela, they've had their exchange of words, and there's true bad blood there. And so I think from a fan's perspective, people would love to see Angela versus Denice. And I would too, actually, to be honest. I just am not sure that Denice is going to be able to stop Angela's ground game. That's my own perspective on the fight. I think Denice is very, very dangerous, and she's very strong for the weight class as well, but I don't think she's technically there versus, let's say, a Stamp. A Stamp, Aliona is a top-level jiu-jitsu submission grappler. You could just see Aliona had Stamp in many submission attempts, and Stamp, incredible athleticism and instincts, and submission defense. And, I hadn't seen that many submission attempts, especially in a chain like that in a long time. Aliona is a legit black belt, high level. And, the fact that Stamp could escape all the submission attempts and even apply a few of her own, just goes to show how tough Stamp is. I think, again, I have a lot of respect for, Denice and Ham and the rest of the contenders. I just think Stamp has the style to give Angela a tough night.
Do you have any news on Eddie Alvarez? He's been constantly linked to fighting Christian. Now, maybe with Christian coming off of a loss, it's more feasible. What's next for Eddie?
Yeah, I mean, I think Eddie's still up there, right? I mean, even though he's, taken some lumps and hasn't had the most smooth of transitions into the organization, he's still very, very dangerous. And I still believe he's one of the top lightweights in the world. He's, one or two good victories away from a title shot. So he's right there in the picture. And again, look at his body of work. Look at his entire career. Who has Eddie fought and what has he achieved? That alone should, and again, he's in prime physical condition. It's not like he's over the hill or anything. He's hungry. He's fit. He's injury free. So I'd love to see him fight. I'm thinking probably Doggy next for him. I know Doggy's supposed to fight, I believe, this month or next month, and or even a rematch with Ray Yoon. With Eddie or fight with Christian. There's so many options for Eddie right now.
What about Gary Tonon versus Tanley? That seems like a big one for the American audience. How significant is that in terms of featherweight history, for one?
I think it's massive. Gary, if he wins, is going to break all records for, a championship caliber grappler coming into the sport of MMA. I think to date, only Roger Gracie has been able to transition as a world champion in jiu-jitsu and become a world champion in one of the major global organizations, which is ONE. For those of you who don't remember, Roger Gracie was our light heavyweight world champion. But Gary Tonon will do it in record time. I think Gary's only 6-0 or 7-0 right now. He's improved leaps and bounds, his striking, his wrestling's obviously been on point already. But he has a very nasty right hand and he can take a shot. And obviously, he's truly one of the best grapplers in history. Very, very explosive, very dangerous with his heel hooks and his back takes. On the flip side, Tanley is a very unorthodox fighter, Taekwondo stylist, very flashy, very fast. And you really can't see the angles and he has a little bit of unpredictability about his striking. His hands are down, he's angled off, he's moving, he shuffles, he just moves in weird ways and he throws punches and kicks from all sorts of angles. So it's a really intriguing matchup. I don't think that's going to go the distance. I think Tanley has the ability to knock out Gary, but I also think Gary has the ability to tag Tanley with an overhand right and possibly end it with a heel hook.
You deal with so many different personalities, so many characters. It's a massive company. John Jones, one of the best to ever do it, has been in the headlines for the wrong reasons again. I'm curious, how would you deal with somebody who's that good, but gets into so much trouble?
If hypothetically, if John Jones were in ONE and had committed all the things he'd committed, I would have fired him a long time ago.
You post on Instagram sometimes.
John Jones has tarnished his own legacy. He could have gone down as one of the greatest fighters of all time. Instead, what people remember most about him is the stuff he's done outside. And it's unfortunate. Massive talented guy, but clearly has some issues.
You post on Instagram sometimes, and I think the fans love it, or on Facebook, who do you guys want me to sign? And the comments just go bananas. Stipe Miocic replied to one of them, which kind of teased things because he seems a little bit unhappy. What's the situation there? Any chance that we see him in ONE?
We're always talking to all free agents and athletes who are coming up for free agency. Obviously, being very respectful of contracts that exist with current organizations and these athletes. But, I can't comment on Stipe's situation in particular, but I can just say that, our team is constantly in discussions from all over the world, rising stars, established superstars from all the organizations. And I'm sure the other organizations are also in discussion with our superstars. It's just part and parcel. for the industry. I don't want to comment specifically on Stipe, but obviously I love the guy. I think he's a great human being and got he's arguably one of the greatest heavyweights of all time. So from our perspective, if he does ever enter free agency, we'd be definitely interested.
The Askren DJ trade was something that the media and fans alike loved, and there was a lot to talk about. If you were to sit down with Dana for dinner, what would be the topic of conversation? Would it be a cheeky trade or something else?
Again, like I think the two most common questions I get asked out here by fans in Asia is, will we ever see a ONE versus UFC event, a mega global event? I think, I'd love to do that. That's something, again, that would have, massive global implications. And I think the entire world would watch. I mean, right. It's no secret that UFC is king of the Western Hemisphere and that we're king of the Eastern Hemisphere. I think UFC probably has about 80% market share or thereabouts in terms of viewership on the Western Hemisphere. We have about a 90% market share in viewership numbers out here in the Eastern Hemisphere. And I think, it would just be epic, a truly global mega event. So that's what I would be most interested in talking to Dana with.
Last one from me. We touched on the heavyweights. I just want to ask you about Arjan because he's got a fight now. Anatoly, I know that Rainier was kind of after that one. Arjan made a bit of history, I guess, by taking out Brandon Vera, the longest serving champion. So just how good is Arjan and how kind of enthralled are you by the prospect of him taking on Anatoly?
I mean, Arjun is the real deal, you go and ask any of his teammates at AKA. AKA is a powerhouse known for recruiting world-class wrestlers and turning them into, MMA world champions. And Arjun comes with that stock, he was training partners with the likes of Daniel Cormier and, Khabib and all these guys. And so Arjun is as tough as they come. And he's got, he moves very well for a heavyweight, very fast hands, good boxing, dangerous wrestler. On the flip side, you have Anatoly, also, a Russian pedigreed world-class wrestler who has outstanding boxing, dynamite in his hands. I'd say that Anatoly has the heavier hands, and I'd say that Arjun has the slicker boxing. So I think that's going to be a super fun fight for the fans. And I believe Arjun is 11-1, and Anatoly, I think, is 10-0. So these are legitimate, world-class, heavyweights who can go up against any heavyweight in the world.
Since you mentioned Khabib there, I've got a comment on the signing of Saygid Izagakhmaev, who's Khabib's not biological brother, but he's one of his boys. How big of a talent is he? And what's the relationship with Khabib? Because it seems he's going to be coming over to ONE. What's the situation there?
Well, I had a phone call with Khabib and Saygid's manager, Ali, a few weeks ago. And Khabib said that Saygid is the best welterweight on the team, on Eagles MMA. And that says a lot. I mean, Eagles MMA has some real killers. It's arguably one of the best MMA teams in the world. And so it was a huge endorsement for Khabib to jump on the phone with Saygid and basically say, Chatri, this guy is our very, very best welterweight. And you're not going to go wrong signing him. And that's how, the signing actually happened. I didn't even know Khabib was going to be on the call, actually. It was supposed to be between me and Ali. And then Khabib and Saygid joined the call. And so I made a spur of the moment decision right there. I said, okay, let's do it. And then, Khabib is looking forward to coming to ONE Championship events and checking it out. And yeah.
Well, he's becoming quite a coach. Chatri, thanks for doing this. Great to catch up with you and looking forward to Friday.